Ambassador Jake Morrison sat in his office looking at the message that had just arrived from the Galactic Council. The holographic words floated in front of him like a bad dream he could not wake up from. He read them again, hoping they would. Change, but they stayed the same. Immediate surrender of all human military vessels. Dissolution of the Terran Defense Force. Acceptance of Council Protectorate status under direct supervision. Jake pushed back from his desk and walked to the large window that showed the vast space around the diplomatic station. Stars twinkled. In the distance, while massive council ships moved slowly through the darkness like sleeping giants. He had been Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council for 12 years and had never seen anything like this ultimatum. Got the door to his office, made a soft sound, and his aide Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell entered carrying a datapad. Her face was pale, and her hands shook slightly as she approached his desk. "Sir, we have confirmed the message," she said quietly. Every human diplomatic post in Council space received the same demand at exactly the same time. They want an answer. Within 72 hours, Jake turned away from the window and looked at Sarah. She was young and had believed in the Council's promises of protection and cooperation between species. Now her faith was being tested in the worst possible way. What triggered this, Sarah? Jake asked, though he already suspected the answer. Sarah activated her datapad, and small images appeared in the air above it. The Kepler incident, sir. 3 days ago, Captain Rick Turner and his crew defended a human colony ship from Vorthan pirates. The Council says he violated the non-aggression protocols by chasing the pirates into neutral space. He saved 800 lives. The Council says proper procedure would have been to file a formal complaint and wait for their response. They claim Captain Turner's actions were an act of human aggression that threatens galactic peace. Jake felt anger building in his chest. 800 human civilians, including women and children, had been aboard that colony ship. The Vorthan pirates were known for selling captured humans as slaves in the Outer Rim markets. Captain Turner had done what any decent person would do, but the Council saw it as a crime. How long have we been members of this Council, Sarah? 37 years, sir. And in those 37 years, how many times have we followed their rules even when it hurt us? Sarah looked uncomfortable. Every time, sir. Earth has never violated a Council directive. Jake walked back to his desk and sat down heavily. The weight of what was happening pressed down on him like a physical force. For nearly 4 decades, humanity had played by the Council's rules. They had contributed ships and crews to Council military operations. They had followed trade regulations that favored older species over newer ones. They had accepted technology transfers at prices that kept Earth dependent on Council goodwill. All of it had been based on the promise that the Council would protect humanity from the dangers of a hostile galaxy. The Council had hundreds of member species and claimed to have kept peace for over 5,000 years. Earth's leaders had believed that joining was humanity's only path to survival among the stars. "Sir, what are we going to do?" Sarah asked. Jake looked at the ultimatum again. The Council was demanding complete surrender disguised as protection. They wanted humanity's military dissolved and Earth placed under direct Council oversight. Any human world that refused would be considered in rebellion and dealt with accordingly. "Get me a secure communication link to Earth," Jake said. "Priority. Alpha. I need to speak with President Coleman immediately." Sarah nodded and began working at her console. While she established the connection, Jake thought about everything that had led to this moment. Humanity's first contact with the Council had seemed like a miracle. Aliens who spoke of peace and cooperation had offered to share technology and knowledge with the newest species to reach the stars. But over the years, Jake had noticed things that troubled him. The Council's protection always came with strings attached. Human colonies could only be established in areas the Council approved. Human ships could only carry weapons the Council allowed. Human research into certain technologies was restricted for their own safety. Whenever humans had questioned these limitations, they were reminded of their junior status in galactic civilization. Other species had thousands of years of experience, while humanity was barely crawling out of their solar system. The Council knew best, and humans should be grateful for their guidance. "Sir, I have President Coleman on a secure channel," Sarah announced. The holographic display changed to show the familiar face of President Linda Coleman. She was in the Oval Office, and Jake could see several military advisors in the background. Her expression was grim as she looked at him through the quantum communication link. "Jake, I've been briefed on the situation," she said without any greeting. "Give me your assessment." "Madam President, this is not a negotiation. The Council has decided that humanity needs to be brought under direct control, and they're using the Kepler incident as justification. If we refuse, they'll use military force." President Coleman was quiet for a moment. Behind her, Jake could see Admiral Frank Parker whispering something urgent in her ear. The president nodded and looked back at the display. "Jake, I need you to understand something. This conversation is being monitored by Council intelligence services, so I can't say much. But I want you to know that we've been preparing for this possibility for a very long time." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "Preparing how?" "In ways that would surprise even you, old friend. The question now is whether we fight or surrender. The Council believes they know humanity's capabilities, but they may be in for a shock." The connection flickered slightly as quantum interference disrupted the signal. Jake knew they didn't have much time before Council monitors would break through their encryption. "What are your orders, Madam President?" President Coleman looked directly into the camera with the same expression she had worn when declaring war on the Centauri pirates 5 years earlier. "Jake, I want you to request an emergency session of the full Council Assembly. Tell them humanity has an official response to their ultimatum." "And what response should I give them?" The president smiled, but there was no humor in it. "Tell them that after 37 years of being junior partners in their galactic community, humanity has decided to withdraw our membership. We're going home, Jake, and we're taking everyone with us." The communication ended, leaving Jake staring at a blank display. Sarah looked at him with wide eyes, having heard every word of the conversation. "Sir, are we really going to leave the Council?" Jake stood up and straightened his uniform. For the first time in months, he felt a sense of purpose instead of frustration. "Sarah, send a request for an emergency council session. Full assembly. Tell them the human ambassador has an important announcement regarding our future relationship." Sarah began sending the request. Jake looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, Earth was preparing for something that would change everything. The Council thought they were dealing with a primitive species that needed their protection. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The Grand Assembly Chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so quiet. Jake Morrison walked down the central aisle between rows of seats filled with representatives from over 400 different species. His footsteps echoed in the massive space as thousands of alien eyes watched his every movement. The translation devices floating above each delegation hummed softly as they prepared to carry his words across the galaxy. Jake wore his full diplomatic uniform with the blue and gold colors of Earth prominently displayed on his chest. He carried no weapons and no documents because everything he needed to say was already memorized. Behind him, the great doors of the chamber sealed shut with a sound like thunder. High Chancellor Vex Thara stood at the center of the raised platform that dominated the front of the chamber. Her crystalline body reflected the lights from above, creating rainbow patterns on the walls around her. She was ancient even by council standards and had seen the rise and fall of dozens of civilizations. Her forearms moved in elegant gestures as she spoke. "Ambassador Morrison, you have requested this emergency session to respond to the Council's protective measures regarding humanity's recent violations of galactic law. We are prepared to show mercy if your species accepts our wisdom and guidance. Jake reached the speaking platform and placed his hands on the podium. The translation devices focused on him immediately, and he could feel the weight of history pressing down on his shoulders. What he said in the next few minutes would determine humanity's future among the stars. High Chancellor and honored delegates, I stand before you today representing not just Earth, but every human settlement and colony throughout Council space. I come with a message from President Coleman and the people of Earth. A low murmur ran through the assembly as representatives leaned forward in their seats. Many had expected Jake to announce humanity's surrender and acceptance of protectorate status. His calm confidence suggested something different was about to happen. For 37 years, humanity has been a member of this council. We have followed your laws even when they restricted our growth. We have contributed our ships and crews to your military operations. We have paid our taxes and followed your trade regulations. We have done everything asked of us as junior members of galactic civilization. Ambassador Krex from the Vorthan delegation stood up from his seat. His reptilian features twisted with anger as he pointed one clawed finger at Jake. You speak of contributions human, but your species has been nothing but trouble since joining us. The Kepler incident proves that humans cannot be trusted with military vessels. Jake turned to face the Vorthan representative directly. Ambassador Krex, your people's pirates attacked a defenseless colony ship carrying 800 civilians. Captain Turner saved those lives using minimal force. The only crime committed was by your pirates, who are now in Council custody. The human captain violated the non-aggression protocols by pursuing those ships into neutral space, Krex snarled. Such actions threaten the peace we have maintained for millennia. What threatens peace, Ambassador, is allowing pirates to prey on innocent people while hiding behind bureaucratic procedures. High Chancellor Vexthara raised one of her arms for silence. The chamber grew quiet again as her voice echoed from the walls. Ambassador Morrison, you are here to respond to the Council's ultimatum, not to debate past events. What is humanity's answer? Jake looked up at the massive star map that covered the ceiling of the chamber. It showed the galaxy divided into Council territories, with Earth appearing as a small blue dot near the edge of civilized space. For nearly 4 decades, that dot had represented humanity's place in a universe much larger than themselves. High Chancellor, the answer is simple. Humanity rejects your ultimatum completely. We will not surrender our military vessels. We will not dissolve our defense forces. We will not accept protectorate status under Council supervision. The chamber erupted in chaos. Hundreds of delegates began talking at once in their various languages, while the translation devices struggled to keep up. Security forces moved nervously around the edges of the Great Hall as emotions ran high among the assembled representatives. Jake raised his voice to be heard above the noise. Furthermore, humanity formally withdraws from all Council treaties and agreements. We reject your authority over human affairs and declare our independence from this organization. The noise grew even louder as delegates shouted in shock and outrage. Some species had tried to leave the Council before, but none had ever succeeded. The economic and military pressure applied to departing members usually forced them back within months. High Chancellor Vexthara's crystalline form flickered with angry energy patterns as she gestured for order. Silence, she commanded, and her amplified voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Ambassador Morrison, you cannot simply abandon your responsibilities. The Council has invested heavily in your species' development. You have debts and obligations that must be honored. Jake waited for complete quiet before responding. High Chancellor, we are taking our people, our ships, and our knowledge. Everything else can be considered payment for the lesson. We learned about the true cost of your protection. What lesson is that human? That those who trade essential freedom for temporary security deserve neither. Humanity chooses freedom. The Altarian delegate near the front of the chamber stood up slowly. Her feathered crest was raised in what Jake recognized as a gesture of curiosity. Ambassador Morrison, how does your species intend to survive without Council protection? The galaxy contains many threats that require unified response. Jake smiled. For the first time since entering the chamber, Delegate Croatian humanity has survived Ice Age's plagues, wars, and disasters that would have destroyed weaker species. We explored dangerous oceans, climbed impossible mountains, and reached for the stars when everyone said it could not be done. I think we can handle whatever the galaxy throws at us. Your arrogance will be your destruction, growled Ambassador Krex. No single species can stand alone against the forces that threaten galactic civilization. Maybe not, Ambassador, but humans have a saying. We would rather die on our feet than live on our knees. High Chancellor Vexthara's patterns shifted to darker colors as she processed what Jake was telling her. Ambassador Morrison, you are making a grave mistake. The Council's protection has kept your species safe for nearly 4 decades. Without us, you will face threats you cannot imagine. Jake began walking toward the exit, but turned back to address the chamber one final time. High Chancellor, with respect, you have no idea what humanity is capable of when we stop holding ourselves back to meet your expectations. We came to you as students seeking knowledge and protection. We are leaving as equals who have learned everything we need to know. The great doors opened as Jake approached them, and he could hear the continuing arguments behind him as delegates debated humanity's shocking announcement. Some called for immediate military action, while others urged caution and negotiation. As Jake stepped into the corridor outside the chamber, he heard High Chancellor Vexthara's final words echoing from within. You will regret this decision, Ambassador Morrison. The galaxy is not kind to those who stand alone. Jake paused and looked back at the chamber entrance, where guards were already sealing the doors. Through the gaps he could still hear the heated discussions continuing inside as hundreds of species tried to understand what humanity's departure would mean for the balance of galactic power. High Chancellor, he said quietly to himself, you are about to discover that humanity has never truly been alone. Captain Lisa Hayes stood on the bridge of the transport vessel, New Horizon, watching dozens of screens that showed human settlements scattered across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. Each dot of light represented families and communities that had built lives far from Earth under the protection of Council law. Now they all had to come home. Status report, Commander Rodriguez. Lisa called to her operations officer, who was coordinating the massive evacuation effort from his station near the main display. We have established contact with 92% of human settlements. Captain, Pete Rodriguez replied while his fingers moved quickly across holographic controls. The civilian transports are performing better than expected. First wave evacuees should reach Sol System within 10 days. Lisa nodded, but her expression remained worried. Through the bridge windows, she could see one of the massive Council orbital platforms that surrounded the diplomatic station where Ambassador Morrison had delivered his speech 3 days ago. The weapons on those platforms could destroy her ship in seconds if the Council decided to stop the evacuation by force. Any response from Earth Command about our final destination? She asked her communications officer, Lieutenant Amy Watson. Amy looked up from her station, where streams of coded messages flowed across multiple screens. Admiral Parker confirms the outer colonies are preparing refugee centers, Captain. They are also implementing something called Protocol 7. Lisa raised an eyebrow. She had heard whispers about Protocol 7 in classified briefings, but the details were always restricted to senior command staff only. Whatever it was had been keeping it secret for years. Captain, I am detecting unusual energy readings from several Council fleets. announced Ensign Chris Martinez from the sensor station. Heavy cruiser formations moving toward human population centers in 7 different sectors. The bridge became quiet, except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. Lisa felt the familiar weight of command settle on her shoulders as she realized this was no longer a simple evacuation mission. The Council was positioning military assets to either force compliance or punish humanity for their defiance. "Sound general quarters," Lisa ordered calmly. "Signal all human vessels to accelerate evacuation schedules. I want every civilian out of Council space within 72 hours. Alarm signals echoed through the ship as crew members rushed to battle stations. Lisa had commanded evacuation operations before during the Centauri pirate raids, but never on this scale, and never with the threat of Council military intervention hanging over them. "Captain, incoming priority transmission from Earth," Amy announced. "It is Admiral Parker on a secure quantum channel." The main screen flickered and changed to show the weathered face of Admiral Frank Parker, who commanded all Terran Defense Forces. Behind him, Lisa could see the busy operations center of Earth High Command, with dozens of officers working at computer stations. "Captain Hayes, I am authorizing immediate release of classified technology specifications to all evacuation commanders," Admiral Parker said without any greeting. "You will find the installation packages in your secure files. Implement them immediately." Lisa frowned as she looked at the Admiral's serious expression. "Sir, what kind of technology are we talking about?" "The kind we have been developing in secret for 15 years, Captain. The kind the Council assumes we do not possess." Parker paused and looked directly into the camera. "Lisa, we always knew this day might come. Everything we have built has been preparation for the moment when humanity would stand alone." The transmission ended, leaving Lisa staring at her reflection in the dark screen. She turned to Pete, who was already accessing the restricted files that had appeared in their computer system. "Holy stars," Pete whispered as his eyes grew wide reading the technical specifications. "Captain, if these readings are accurate, we are not just evacuating. We are about to show the galaxy that humanity has been playing a completely different game than anyone realized." Lisa walked over to look at Pete's display and felt her breath catch in her throat. The technology specifications showed weapon systems, energy shields, and propulsion methods that were decades ahead of anything the Council possessed. More importantly, they showed that human ships had been carrying this equipment in disguised forms for years. "Begin immediate installation of all systems," Lisa ordered, "and send a coded message to all human vessels. Operation Homecoming is now Operation Exodus. We are not just going home. We are going to show the Council who we really are." Over the next 12 hours, Lisa watched as her ship and hundreds of others throughout Council space underwent rapid technological upgrades. Hidden compartments opened to reveal weapon systems that had been concealed behind civilian plating. Shield generators came online with power outputs that exceeded Council military specifications. Engine modifications activated that tripled normal acceleration rates. "Captain, we are receiving reports from human settlements on the Outer Rim," Amy announced. "Council forces have surrounded the mining colonies on Kepler-7 and are demanding immediate surrender." Lisa looked at the tactical display showing the positions of Council fleets throughout human space. They had moved quickly to cut off escape routes and were clearly planning to use civilian populations as leverage against Earth's defiance. "Put me through to the colony administrator on Kepler-7. The screen changed to show a middle-aged man with dirt on his face and worry in his eyes. Behind him, Lisa could see mining equipment and prefabricated buildings that housed 3,000 human families. "Captain Hayes, this is Administrator John Blake," the man said. "Council ships appeared 2 hours ago and are demanding we surrender all our equipment and submit to protective custody. They say anyone who resists will be considered a terrorist." Administrator Blake How many people do you have there? 3,000, including 800 children, Captain. We have 4 transport ships, but they are not armed, and council vessels are blocking all exit routes. Lisa made a decision that would have been impossible just days earlier. Administrator Blake, prepare your people for immediate evacuation. We are coming to get you. Captain, the Council has 12 heavy cruisers surrounding our colony. Your transport ship cannot fight them. Lisa smiled grimly as she watched her ship's new weapon systems finish their startup sequences. Administrator Blake, we are no longer just a transport ship. Hold your position and keep your people calm. The cavalry is coming. Lisa turned to her tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Ray Chun, who was studying the enhanced combat systems that had just come online. Ray, I need firing solutions for 12 Council cruisers arranged in standard blockade. Formation. Ray looked at his displays with amazement as targeting computers analyzed threats with unprecedented accuracy. Captain, our new systems are showing weapon capabilities I did not know existed. We can engage all 12 ships simultaneously. Do it. The New Horizon changed course toward Kepler-7, while similar scenes played out across human space. Transport. Ships revealed hidden weapons. Civilian vessels activated military-grade shields. Colony defense platforms powered up systems that had been disguised as communication arrays for years. For the first time in 37 years, humanity was showing their true capabilities to the galaxy. The Council had believed they were protecting a primitive species that needed guidance and support. They were about to discover that they had been harboring a sleeping giant that was now fully awake. Captain, we are approaching Kepler-7, announced the navigation officer. Council ships are hailing us and demanding we withdraw immediately. Lisa stood up and straightened her uniform. Put me through to the Council Fleet Commander. The screen showed a tall alien with blue skin and multiple arms wearing the ornate uniform of a Council Fleet Admiral. His expression was one of arrogant confidence as he looked at what he assumed was an outgunned human transport. Human vessel, you are ordered to withdraw immediately, or face the consequences of interfering with lawful Council operations. Lisa looked directly at the alien commander with the same calm expression she had learned from years of military service. Admiral, this is Captain Lisa Hayes of the Terran vessel New Horizon. You are surrounding human civilians in violation of interstellar law. Withdraw your ships immediately. The alien laughed, showing rows of sharp teeth. Captain, you are clearly confused about the balance of power here. Your single transport ship cannot threaten 12 Council cruisers. Admiral, you are clearly confused about what you are facing. Lisa replied as her ship's weapon systems locked onto all 12 Council vessels simultaneously. This is your final warning. Fleet Admiral Zixthil of the Council, 3rd Fleet, stood on the command bridge of his massive dreadnought Eternal Dominion, watching the blue star Sol grow larger on the main display. In his 400 years of military service, he had crushed 17 rebellions and brought order to dozens of unruly species. The humans would be no different. Intelligence confirms minimal defensive presence in the Sol system, Admiral, reported his tactical officer Commander Kethron, whose multiple arms worked quickly at his control station. Their primary fleet is still scattered across the galaxy, evacuating civilians from outer settlements. Zixthil smiled, showing the sharp teeth that marked his species as natural predators. Humans always put individual lives before strategic thinking. Their sentimentality makes them weak and predictable. The 3rd Fleet consisted of 47 capital ships, supported by over 200 smaller vessels. It was enough firepower to destroy entire star systems if necessary. The Council wanted to send a message that would echo throughout the galaxy about the price of defying their authority. Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the human homeworld, announced Communications Officer Veltara from her station near the main display. Put it through, Zixthil ordered while straightening his ornate uniform. The screen flickered to show a human woman in her 50s wearing a simple military uniform. Her gray hair was pulled back in a neat style, and her green eyes held a calmness that Zixthel found strangely unsettling. "I am Admiral Janet Coleman, Commander of Earth Defense Forces," she said in a steady voice. "You are approaching sovereign human territory without permission. Turn your ships around immediately or face the consequences." Zixthel laughed loudly, causing several bridge officers to look in his direction. "Admiral Coleman, I am Fleet Admiral Zixthel, commanding the Council Third Fleet under direct orders from the High Chancellor. Surrender your pathetic defenses immediately, and your species may retain limited autonomy." Coleman showed no emotion as she responded. "Admiral, you have 30 seconds to change course before we take appropriate defensive action. You threaten me with your handful of primitive vessels." Zixthel gestured dismissively at his tactical display, which showed only a few dozen human ships scattered throughout the Sol system. "Human arrogance truly knows no limits." 20 seconds, Coleman said quietly. Zixthel cut the transmission and turned to his weapons officer. "Begin bombardment operations. Target their orbital defense platforms first, then move to population centers. Use standard pacification protocols." "Sir, I am detecting some unusual energy signatures from the inner system," Kethron announced with uncertainty in his voice. "The readings do not match anything in our databases. Defying unusual, Commander." Before Kethron could answer, space around the Third Fleet erupted in brilliant flashes of energy. Weapons platforms that had been completely invisible to Council sensors suddenly appeared from what seemed like empty space. Their energy beams cut through Council shields like they were made of paper instead of advanced force field technology. "Impossible." Zixthel breathed as his confidence evaporated. "Humans do not possess stealth technology or weapons of this magnitude." The Eternal Dominion shuddered violently as exotic energy weapons tore into its hull plating. Around the fleet, other Council vessels reported similar damage from attacks coming from directions where their sensors showed nothing but empty space. Admiral, massive energy buildups detected throughout the Sol system. The sensor officer reported with panic creeping into his voice. "Whatever they are powering up is generating more energy than our entire fleet combined." On the tactical display, new contacts began appearing everywhere. Ship stations, asteroid bases, and defensive installations materialized as their stealth systems deactivated. The Sol system was not lightly defended, as intelligence had reported. It was the most heavily fortified location the Third Fleet had ever encountered. "Admiral," Coleman's voice cut through the chaos on an open communication channel that reached every Council ship simultaneously. "All Council vessels, you are now in violation of human territorial space. This is your final opportunity to withdraw. We will not ask again." Zix stared at his tactical display in growing horror. His 47 capital ships now faced over 300 human vessels, many displaying energy signatures that exceeded his largest dreadnoughts. Worse, the humans were using technology that made Council weapons seem primitive by comparison. "Admiral, 17 of our escort ships are requesting permission to surrender," Veltara announced quietly. "They report catastrophic damage from weapons they never detected approaching." Through the bridge windows, Zixthel could see the impossible sight of human fighter craft moving at speeds that should have killed their pilots while performing maneuvers that violated every principle of space combat he had learned over 4 centuries of warfare. "Sir, preliminary analysis suggests human technology equivalent to a Tier 1 civilization," Kethron whispered. "That classification is impossible. 6 months ago, they were rated as Tier 4 primitives." Zixthel realized with mounting dread that the Council had made a fundamental error in judgment. They had not been protecting humanity from galactic threats. Humanity had been protecting the galaxy from themselves. "Signal the fleet," he ordered hoarsely. "Full retreat to the nearest Council outpost." Maximum emergency speed. Admiral, the humans are not pursuing our damaged vessels, reported the sensor officer with surprise. They appear to be allowing our withdrawal, as the broken remnants of the Third Fleet limped away from Sol at maximum speed. Zixthal watched human ships escort his damaged vessels to the edge of their territory before turning back. They could have destroyed his entire fleet, but chose mercy instead. Admiral Coleman's final transmission followed them into the darkness of space. Inform the Council that humanity has received their message. We decline their offer of protection and reject their authority over human affairs. Any future Council vessels entering Sol system without permission will be considered hostile. Back on Earth, Admiral Coleman stood in the command center watching the Council fleet retreat, while damage reports flowed in from human defensive positions. The secret weapons and shields humanity had developed over 15 years of careful preparation had performed beyond expectations. Admiral casualties from the engagement, asked her aide Colonel Ben Murphy. Minimal, Ben. 3 injured from a power overload on station. 7. The Council ships never got close enough to threaten civilian populations. What about their fleet, Admiral? Coleman looked at the tactical display, showing Council ships limping away at reduced speed. We disabled their weapons and damaged their engines, but avoided targeting life support or crew sections. They will reach Council space in about 2 weeks, with a very interesting story to tell. Colonel Murphy frowned as he studied the engagement reports. Admiral, why did we show them mercy? They came here to destroy us, because Ben, we are not like them. The Council rules through fear and overwhelming force. Humanity will show the galaxy a different way. We destroyed their military capability, but preserved their lives. That message will spread faster than any propaganda through the command center windows. Coleman could see the lights of human cities continuing their normal routines below. Children played in parks while families gathered for dinner, completely unaware that their world had just demonstrated military superiority over the most powerful force in known space. Send a message to all human settlements throughout the galaxy. Coleman ordered. Tell them the homecoming is proceeding as planned. Earth is secure and our people are free to return home whenever they choose. Admiral, what about the Council response to this defeat? Coleman smiled as she watched the last Council ship disappear from human sensor range. Ben, I suspect the Council is about to discover that ruling through intimidation only works when people believe you are stronger than they are. Today, we proved that assumption wrong. The victory at Sol would echo throughout Council space within days as surviving crew members told their story of humanity's hidden strength. For the first time in 5,000 years, a species had successfully defied Council authority and lived to tell about it. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Sol, and the galaxy was still adjusting to the new reality. Jake Morrison sat in a small cafe on the independent trading station called Crossroads, watching news feeds scroll across the wall displays. Headlines told a story that would have seemed impossible just a year ago. Human colony ship reaches Andromeda Galaxy. Read one report while another announced 15 more species withdraw from Council trade agreements. Jake sipped his coffee and shook his head in amazement at how quickly everything had changed. At the table next to him sat 2 alien traders discussing the latest shipping routes that bypassed Council space entirely. One was a tall, blue-skinned Altarian whose feathered crest rippled with excitement as he spoke. The other was a short, stocky creature from the mining worlds, whose rocky skin made quiet scratching sounds when he moved. The humans have opened 3 new trade corridors this month, the Altarian was saying. My cargo holds are full of orders for human technology. Everyone wants their stealth systems and energy weapons. My people have signed an exclusive mining contract with Earth, replied the rocky alien. No more Council oversight or taxation. We keep 80% of our profits. Instead of 20%, Jake smiled as he listened to conversations like this throughout the cafe. The human exodus from council space had created opportunities that dozens of species were eager to exploit. Without council regulations and restrictions, many worlds were discovering they could be far more prosperous dealing directly with Earth. The door chimed, and Director Vexnara entered the cafe, looking around until she spotted Jake. The crystalline being approached his table with light patterns flickering across her transparent body. Jake had met her several times since leaving his diplomatic post and found her to be one of the few council officials willing to speak honestly about the situation. "Ambassador Morrison," she said as she settled into the chair across from him. "I bring news from the council chambers. Just Jake now, Director. I am no longer an ambassador to anyone." He gestured for her to continue. "What is the latest from your government?" Vexnara's light patterns shifted to darker colors indicating serious concern. "High Chancellor Vexthara has been removed from power by a vote of no confidence. The new leadership is much more pragmatic, but they face serious challenges." "What kind of challenges?" 312 species have reduced their dependence on council services since Sol. 47 have withdrawn from military cooperation agreements. Tax revenues are down 60%, and several core worlds are demanding representation in council leadership for the first time in 2,000 years. Jake nodded as he processed this information. The human departure had done more than demonstrate military capabilities. It had shown other species that alternatives to council authority existed and could be successful. "Any word about renewed contact with Earth?" Jake asked. "President Coleman's administration has received over 200 formal requests for diplomatic relations from individual species. They are being very selective about which ones to accept." Vexnara paused as her patterns brightened slightly. "The new council leadership has also sent several informal messages requesting dialogue." And Earth's response: "Your president has been clear that she will establish normal diplomatic relations with the council, but only as equals. No special status, no oversight agreements, and no restrictions on human activities." Jake laughed quietly. "That must be driving the council crazy. For 5,000 years, they have been the ultimate authority in galactic affairs. Now they have to treat humanity as an equal partner instead of a junior member." Through the cafe windows they could see the busy traffic of ships coming and going from the trading station. Human vessels moved alongside alien craft from dozens of species, many flying flags that Jake did not recognize. The independent trade networks that had emerged after Sol were creating new relationships throughout the galaxy. "Jake, may I ask you a personal question?" Vexnara said, as her pattern shifted to colors indicating curiosity. "Of course, Director. How long did your people know they possessed such advanced technology? The stealth systems and energy weapons you revealed at Sol are decades ahead of anything the Council has developed." Jake set down his coffee cup and looked directly at the crystalline being. "Vexnara humanity has been developing alternative technologies since the day we joined the Council. We never stopped being curious about how things worked or wondering if there were better ways to do them. But the Council shared our most advanced knowledge with your species. You shared what you wanted us to have. Always just enough to keep us dependent, but never enough to become truly independent." Jake smiled. "What you did not realize is that humans learn by taking things apart and putting them back together in new ways. Every piece of Council technology we received became a starting point for our own research." Vexnara's patterns flickered rapidly as she processed this concept. "You reverse-engineered our technology and improved upon it. We did not just improve it, Director. We completely reimagined what was possible. Council technology is designed to maintain the existing power structure. Human technology is designed to push boundaries and explore new possibilities." A news alert flashed across the wall, displays showing footage of the newest human exploration vessel departing Earth. The ship called Pioneer was humanity's first attempt at intergalactic travel using experimental drive systems that could theoretically reach other galaxies within months instead of millennia. "Where will it end, Jake?" Vexnara asked as they both watched the ship accelerate to impossible speeds before disappearing into hyperspace. Jake thought about everything that had changed since that day, 6 months ago, when he had stood before the Council and announced humanity's independence. Earth had lost the security of Council protection, but gained something far more valuable. They had gained the freedom to determine their own destiny among the stars. "I do not think it will end, Director. Humans have always believed that there are no limits except the ones we accept. We spent 37 years accepting the Council's limits on our growth and development. Now that we have rejected those limits, I think the galaxy is about to discover what humanity can really accomplish." He raised his coffee cup in a small salute to the empty space where the high Pioneer had vanished. "To exploration and the courage to go where no one has gone before." Vixnara created her own version of the gesture using one of her crystalline appendages. "To the species that taught the galaxy that protection and growth are not the same thing." As they sat in comfortable silence, Jake reflected on the choices that had brought them to this moment. The Council had been shocked when humanity cut all ties, but the real shock was what humanity accomplished when they stopped asking permission to be great. The galaxy was vast and full of mysteries waiting to be discovered. For the first time in human history, they were free to explore it all without anyone telling them where they could or could not go. Outside the cafe windows, ships continued their journeys to destinations throughout the galaxy, carrying trade goods, technology, and ideas that were reshaping galactic civilization. The age of Council dominance was ending, and a new era of cooperation between equals was beginning. Humanity had chosen freedom over security, and in doing so had offered that same choice to every other species in the galaxy. The future was uncertain, but it belonged to those brave enough to reach for it